Hello, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. If you can hear me okay, just give me a thumbs up, which I can't see, so say yes if you can hear me in the chat. Perfect. Good. Hi, Jennifer. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. We'll want to wait. There's a lot of people logging on right now, so we're gonna delay starting just a little bit, just to make sure that everyone gets the whole thing. So, but we'll be starting very close to 10 o'clock. It's great to see people from all over.
Yeah. A lot of familiar names.
Which is good. That's good. And new names. Uh-oh. I'm getting a major echo. I see that. Jennifer, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but it sounded like you turned off your ambient noise.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me too. Let me check on that to see if it somehow changed at all.
Wow.
I'm going to mute myself and see if I can still hear that, and we'll see if it's coming through my end or yours.
David, do you think either one of us should try and leave the meeting and come back in and see if maybe that gets resolved?
Yeah, Jennifer. Oh, I think Jennifer. If you are still on, yeah, try logging back in, Jennifer. I'll stay on to make sure the meeting doesn't actually end. Let's see if that fixes it. Is anyone hearing a big fuzzy noise or kind of maybe like an echo, but background noise?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. David,
Things kind of go wrong, they do, don't they? It was perfect, like this whole past hour, it was just fine. If you're just logging on, welcome to the meeting. We are just testing out some audio, and we'll get started shortly. So welcome.
It seems to be better now. I hear less of it. Yeah.
In fact, what I've noticed is when you're speaking, it clears right up, but when you're not speaking, that's when it comes in.
Well, I just need to talk.
Once you start talking, just keep talking. We'll be just fine.
Good at that. Better. And all of the participants are muted.
Yep. So I was checking that to see if somehow someone was maybe unmuted, but everyone's muted except for the two of us. So let's do some polls just to keep everyone engaged as everyone's jumping online right now. Everyone's scrambling to get a spot. Jennifer, I just want to let you know that you had a lot of registrants. Congratulations. I'm pretty sure we'll have this meeting packed. And if those that registered can attend. It will be recorded. If you need to step out, know that this will be recorded. Let's run an audio poll. Let's just do that same one we did about half an hour ago, since there are so many new people. Well, maybe we should do, let's do this one. So there's a poll that should pop up on your screen where you can vote. Alan, 53. Alan and I just became Facebook friends. I'm teaching about that too, about 53 students. Keeps me pretty busy.
75. Woo.
I have no idea how you can do that. Looks like Kathy has a studio with other teachers. Yeah, is everyone seeing the poll? Yeah, okay, everyone's filming that. Okay. All right, well let's see what the results are. I have to appreciate the teachers that, I mean, just getting started with just a few students. Kind of what I've noticed in my area at least is the teachers that are teaching one or two students don't care to attend meetings or learn more about different methods or publications. So I think that's really admirable that you are
Here, put it on speaker.
still attending. I think that's wonderful.
David?
Yes?
I heard someone on the line. Are you sure that nobody else is unmuted?
I'm going to check. Because it says that 7 people are unmuted, and that shouldn't be possible.
And I heard other voices too.
Oh, let me go back to the phone charge.
Oh, yeah.
I don't hear anything except some noise.
I hear noise and you.
Okay, so I'm hearing voices, but we shouldn't. Everyone should be muted, but let me see if I can.
That's probably why we're experiencing the echo.
Yeah, that must be a glitch in the system. Because it's not in question and answer mode. So no one should be able to mute themselves. If you're listening to this presentation and you are on a computer and if you've somehow unmuted yourself, see if you can mute that back so that we don't get the feedback. It might not even be your fault though. That could be just the system. I've never seen that happen before, but that's possible.
David, I'm going to pop out real quick because I remember seeing those settings when I was going to turn my camera on. But maybe I've unmuted people actually.
Okay. All right, yeah, go and see if you can see that. Once again, thanks for attending. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We're just working out some audio issues, and then we'll get started shortly. I think I might know the issue. I'll be back. I'm going to go see if I have double logged on to the system somehow. Hang on just 1 second, and then we'll start right when I get back.
Andrew, I'm going to check turn off that notification sound when people are joining the meeting.
Entry and exit chimes are off.
Okay, Andrea, I've disabled the entry and exit dings, so you won't hear that anymore. Okay, she can hear me. Hopefully other people can hear me. Okay, good. So it was David who was the problem, I guess. So it's a good thing we got rid of him. Okay, good. Always the man. But I think he's coming back, so we're going to be nice once he comes back in the room. Oh, the puppies are outside, locked up.
What was that about being nice to me when I get back?
It's always the man who's the trouble. Because they can... I still hear somebody else.
You know what I think it is? It is an error with the system, it looks like, and I think it's people that are calling in from their phones.
Oh.
And it's not blocking them out, and it doesn't let me change any of their settings. So if you're on a phone, don't feel like you need to hang up. We want you to be here. Maybe go to a quiet room if possible. But no, you're welcome to be here. We're happy to have you here. So, Jennifer, let's get started with a little introduction. My name is David Love. I am what Joytunes calls a power teacher. Basically, I help teachers find out more on Maestro. And we are very excited because if you haven't seen the announcement, it came out just yesterday that Piano Maestro is now free for teachers and their students. Which is exciting. Yay, we're very excited about it. Because of making it free, that will allow your students who are connected to you to have it free as well. To learn more about Piano Maestro, what it is, if you don't know about it, go to joytunes.com, and I'll send a link to everyone. Let's run one more poll, and then I'll introduce Jennifer, and we'll let her get started. Jennifer today is going to be talking about, of course, her amazing material, her publications, her method books, and supplemental material, and we're excited to have her part of the app. Just as a quick poll, are you using Piano Maestro with your students? And here is the poll. Go ahead and vote away. And I'll just give you a few more seconds to vote in. And like about everyone. Okay. Well, thanks for voting. The results, I don't know if I shared those results. Are those being shared right now? I can just read them to you. So 48% said yes, they are using Piano Maestro, and then 46% no, which is fabulous. That means that if you have an iPad, you can now start using it for free, and we'd love for you to check it out, of course. This webinar is being sponsored by Joytunes, but of course it's all about Jennifer and Piano Pronto. I met Jennifer for the first time at the NAMM show in Anaheim, California. She stopped by the booth, and I was demoing the app, and from that very moment, I really liked Jennifer. She's an amazing person, an amazing writer, and her compositions have just a way of catching the attention of her students. and my students and other students as well. Kids and teenagers especially love her pieces. So she's doing us all a really big favor of keeping students engaged in music. As I think it's best put, she's now affecting the masses. Lots of people are now finding out about her method book and her series, and we're excited to have her today. So Jennifer, I'm going to mute my camera and mute my mic. It's now, the stage is now yours.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Those of you who are here live with us, it's great to have you here. And for those of you who are watching after the fact, thank you for taking the time out of your day to do so. I hope that you're going to learn a lot about Piano Pronto today, maybe learn some things that you didn't know, and hopefully have a good time. I'm going to go ahead and start to share my screen. I have a slide presentation, so if you can bear with us for just a minute. While this is loading, I wanted to mention, and maybe David, if you unmute yourself for a second and let me know that this slide presentation has come up on the screen, that would be great. I wanted to...
It just came up, Jennifer.
Thank you. So what I wanted to mention is that I'm going to give a lot of background information about Piano Pronto today, and please feel free to write your questions into the chat box off to the left. And David's role today as moderator is to kind of take note of the questions that are coming up during my presentation. And we will have plenty of time at the end of the spiel today to answer all of your burning questions about Piano Pronto. I'm hoping that I'm going to address a lot of these questions in my presentation, but please feel free, feel free, anything that comes up while I'm talking, just go ahead and post that question and we will get as many of those answered as we possibly can. So when Joy Tunes asked me to come up with a presentation title, I thought, you know what, this is the time of year to take the plunge. And are you ready to take the plunge? Back to school time, teachers always start thinking about what can I do different this year that I haven't done before? And maybe you've explored Piano Pronto a little bit in the past, but maybe you're just kind of dipping your toe in the pool. And that's what I'm here to help you with today, is to help you maybe take a larger plunge into Piano Pronto and to incorporate the use of the method books into your studio practice. So I'm going to give you a lot of information today, and often I get emails from teachers saying, I just discovered your site, I love what I see, but I feel so overwhelmed by everything that I see on the site, and I have no idea where to start. So I love this quote in front of you. Hopefully you see it. It says, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the step. So while I'm going to give you information overload today, I want you to remember that it's not important that you get all of the nitty-gritty details down pat today. I just want to kind of pique your curiosity and get you curious, and I'll encourage you after the webinar to go and just explore the website. I've worked really, really hard to make the website extremely user-friendly, so at your leisure, you can explore, you can listen to the music, you can see the music, and you can start dipping your toe in the pool. So remember, you don't need to know everything right away, and you don't need to implement everything right away, but, you know, just starting to dabble. So what I wanted to do today is to go through a little bit about the background of Piano Pronto and tell you why I wrote it in the first place. I've been teaching for about 20 years now, and I know many of us teachers have probably thought on more than one occasion, oh, if I ever had time to write a method, I would do this, and I would do that. In retrospect, no regrets about writing a method book series. Would I do it again? Probably not. It's a ton of work. But let me tell you a little bit about where it came from. So this is me. I'm Jennifer Eklund, and I grew up in the beautiful city of Costa Mesa, California. And while researching this webinar, I discovered that our city motto is actually that we are the city of the arts. I'm located just about an hour south of Los Angeles in the Disneyland area, about 5 miles from the beach. I grew up here in Costa Mesa. We used to just be bean fields and orange trees. We are famous for a couple of things. We have a very large mall that is very well known called South Coast Plaza, which was built right about the time I was born. And we also have a couple beautiful performing arts centers, which is called the City of the Arts. So this is me at age 8. My fate was sealed very early on. My mom always wanted to play the piano herself, but her mother was too frugal to get her piano lessons. So instead, as the only child, they put all their eggs in this basket, and I was going to play the piano, whether I liked it or not. But I liked it. And this is me pre-recital about age 8. And as you can see, I was student of the, let's see, was I student of the week? Yes, I was student of the week. So, my mentor, Thelma, was probably the most influential teacher that I had as I was growing up. She was the teacher that I aspired to be when I became a teacher. She always encouraged me for all types of music, all genres. Every week, she really developed me into a functional musician who could just read anything. And I really valued that about her because I studied with many, many people throughout my years of studies. And she was really the one who was just constantly searching for the material and keep me sparked. And this was very important because, as we all know, when students get into those teenage years and their motivation levels start to wane a bit, we as teachers, we really need to hustle and we need to find the materials that are going to keep them in the lessons and keep them playing and really develop that lifelong love of music that we want them to have. So this picture was taken when I was about 15, and it was around that time that Thelma encouraged me to start teaching. She says, I see that you have a passion for music, and she could kind of see that there was a natural teacher in me. I thought she was crazy at the time. I said, nobody's gonna take lessons from 14-and-a-half-year-old, but they did, and I loved it, and it was an instantaneous love. Ironically, when I was a child, there were 2 things I liked to do. I liked to play teacher with my stuffed animals, and I liked to play guitar. So it's kind of ironic that that's the 2 things that I've ended up doing with my life, teaching, and now I play store full time. This is another picture of my first little student, Brian, from when I was about 15. And piano lessons were so inexpensive with me that he used to come 5 days a week right after school. His mother wanted it to be like school for him. And let me tell you, this kid progressed really, really, really quickly. So those are fun memories. He's married and a lawyer and has kids now, so a lot of time has passed. My college years, I started at a community college here in Costa Mesa, and it was at that time I was still, pursuing my classical studies, but I also got into jazz, and I played in big bands, and this is a big influence on my compositions as well, that I have sort of a wide breadth of studies. After I finished at the community college, I went to attend California State University, Long Beach, where I studied with a wonderful pianist, Edith Hirschtal, who was a student of Leon Fleischer.
Forgive me for interrupting.
Okay.
The slide, we're back on the early years with, I think, your student Brian.
Oh,
it's stuck, it appears, and forgive me for interrupting.
Should I maybe bomb out of the screen sharing and try and reshare it?
Yeah, try to do that. Jump out of the screen share, put it on the slide that you want it to go to, and bring it back on. And then we'll see, and I can post edit. We'll post edit for those that are going to view after. So
I'm back. And so let's try and share this again. Oh yeah, you know what, David? Mm-hmm. My thing crashed again. So I think it's gonna it's going to bomb me out of the meeting.
Okay. I'll keep them busy.
Okay.
Log off and log right back on, and then we'll continue with the presentation. I know you want to hear from Jennifer right now. She's going to come right back on, and we'll get started right again. Can I rap? No, I cannot rap. I can't rap. Okay, Jennifer's back. Questions are fine along the way. I'm going to copy and paste your questions, and then feel free to ask those now. Jennifer, go ahead. We're gonna try again.
Yes, we are. So, how about now, David? Are you seeing the Orange Coast College slide?
Not yet. It says that it's enabling screen sharing. Starting screen sharing. No, it says Orange Coast College. It's not full size yet.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've enabled full size, but it's still, it's just on, it's not full screen, but it does show the Orange Coast College slide.
Okay, well, I do have it on full screen. Why don't we just go ahead and go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. And if the slides are behind, we'll edit that for after. We'll all be listening to you, so go ahead, Jennifer.
I've gone ahead and flipped the slide now, so maybe you can just pop in and tell me if that's come up. It's a picture of Cal State Long Beach and my teacher who I had there. Are you seeing that yet?
Not there yet. Well, perhaps I should just go ahead. It's showing now.
It is showing now. Okay.
Studies with Edith, right?
Yes, okay. We've just got a bit of a leak. So I'll go ahead and flip the slides a little bit before I need them. So going back, after I finished at community college, I studied for Shaw at California State University, Long Beach. And I had always had a desire to study abroad. It's something that I really wanted to do. And so I did. Now, David, has my Stockholm slide come up?
Not yet.
This is a picture worth seeing. So, round about 1999, I applied to the Royal Conservatory in Stockholm, and I got in. And I took it as a sign that I was supposed to go abroad. So, I was 1 year away from my bachelor's degree, and I dropped all my students. I took educational leave from school, and I moved to Sweden, which was probably the most defining decision in my life, and it's a big part of where Piano Pronto came from. David, are we seeing that slide now?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, we will hope that it pops up. You can feel free to interrupt me when it does, just so that I know.
It popped up.
Okay, good. So you can see me in the ice bar in Stockholm. So I took a semester to study at the conservatory in Stockholm, which was a great experience. But then it was at that point that I decided that I didn't think performance was where I wanted to head as far as a career, and I really wanted to focus on teaching. So what I did is I got a job at an international preschool in Stockholm, and I was hired as a pre-kindergarten teacher, and I was teaching a classroom full of students who didn't share a mother tongue. The school itself was an English-speaking school, but we also instructed in Swedish as well. But we had kids in the classroom from all different countries. Most of them had parents who were working for Ericsson, the cell phone company, so they were stationed in Stockholm. and all of their kids were coming to this international preschool. The principal of the school knew that I was a music teacher, and she wanted me to implement a piano program at the school. And this is really where Piano Pronto was born. I was in Stockholm. I didn't have access to any of the materials that I was used to using from back home. And so I bought a copy of Sibelius, the notation software, and I started writing. And through this writing process, I started to discover what were a variety of children at a variety of ages who didn't really speak English. And music was our only common language. And so that's where I started developing the Piano Pronto materials. So I worked for about 8 months at this preschool and implemented the music program, and it was great fun. But Sweden is very dark and very cold, and it was time for me to go back to California. And that's what I did. I went back and I finished my bachelor's degree. And then I was kind of schooled out. And I spent from 2001 to 2008 developing Piano Pronto. So the seeds of it were planted in Sweden with these young kids at the preschool. And then I spent from 2001 forward until I published road testing the materials on a full studio of students. And I would test materials, and if the songs worked, I would keep them. If the songs didn't work, they were out. So this was really a long development process, and I was, constantly tweaking the layout, seeing what would work with the widest variety of students. David, can you just tell me if we are on the Piano Pronto slide? It should have a picture of the old Prelude book and a picture of me graduating.
It's on. It's uploaded.
Awesome. Okay. So after writing this method book series, I was completely exhausted, and I wanted to go back to school again. And I went back and I pursued a master's degree in musicology because I have a geeky book library side of myself, and I really enjoy research. And so that was a great accomplishment. I'm glad I did it. And then I was kind of schooled out again. And I decided to come back to publishing full force and really give it a run and try to build the name recognition for Piano Pronto itself. So let's talk a little bit about the books. This is a picture of the complete series. I had started with 8 books in the series, and I actually just published a new primer level book, Keyboard Kickoff book, just this last week, and we will talk about that in just a second. So let's go through the key features of what makes Piano Pronto unique and different from other series that you've seen. One thing that I do differently is that I introduce on-the-staff reading from day one. I have my own reasons for this. I've found through my own teaching that about 90% of kids, when you show them off-the-staff reading or black key only playing, they get a little bit confused when you do finally get to grand staff reading. They wonder, why didn't I just start there in the first place? I'm a believer that music is a language. We can show them the real thing from day one and start with a very narrow vocabulary of just a few notes and build it out slowly from there. So that's one thing that I do differently from other methods. Also, my series is age and gender neutral. I don't have a separate series for adults, or a separate series for older beginners, or a separate series for younger beginners. This is a series that you can feel comfortable and confident using with music. As you'll see, the layout is just very clean. There's no childish illustrations that, sort of reference it as being a kid's book. So you can comfortably use this series with adults, teenagers, or young kids. And young kids like it because it feels like a grown-up book. They don't feel like they're in a little kid book. And lots of young students like to feel like they're, in a big boy book or a big girl book. Another thing I do is I utilize fun and familiar tunes. Beginners especially love recreating what's familiar to them. And even though we may think it's kind of hokey or childish, There's a lot of joy that comes from being able to recreate a simple tune like Jingle Bells on the piano. I would feel the same way if I took up an instrument today. Students build confidence. One of the things we struggle with in Pronto through all those years, that my students were progressing faster because we're doing it right, doing it wrong. And I think that that's really important early on, that they gain that confidence, that they don't need their teacher sitting right by their side saying, yes, that's right, or yes, or no, you need to fix that. So I use familiar tunes from all sorts of genres, classical, lots of classical themes throughout the method, folk tunes, familiar jazz and blues tunes. There's a few of my original compositions sprinkled within the series, but really my original compositions lie in all of the supplemental materials and not so much in the method book. So even though I've kind of been branded as a pop music girl, the Piano Pronto method is actually really classically oriented. So it's quite traditional, and in the later books in the series, you have many original classics, tunes from Bergmuller, Kavalevsky, etc. The books also feature an all-in-one approach. I don't have a separate performance book, a separate theory book, a separate technique book. You don't need 4 books for each level. It's all there in front of you. The theory is functional theory and is included throughout the books. You can absolutely supplement with other theory books on the side. I am a proponent of using the Theory Time books written by Heather Rathenow. Those are excellent, excellent books that will give you really comprehensive theory. The theory that's within the Piano Pronto books is mainly functional and related to the pieces, because that's how I was always taught theory knowledge, was relating it directly to the repertoire. The material is very flexible and unmethody. I like to say I'm the most unmethody method on the market. If you're just interested in dabbling, absolutely, the Pronto books are not going to get in your way at all. They are not going to be intrusive upon any other method book, and they work great as supplemental material. All of the method and text pages within the books are really just instructional and, like I said, functional theory exercises. So it's all related to the repertoire, and it's not graded in a way that it's going to interfere if you happen to want to use another method book alongside it. The pacing is done in a thoughtful way. One of the downfalls, I think, of a lot of method books is that they are constantly sloping upwards, and they never take any time to either allow students to plateau or to even at times step backwards. So I took really careful consideration when I was writing the series that I made sure every now and then to take a step backwards and to maybe throw in a song that's easier than the song that they just finished, because students tend to always get bogged down in where they are right now and what's hard right now, so that it feels like it's a constant uphill climb. There's constantly something that's harder that I have to accomplish. So I think psychologically it's very beneficial every now and again, to throw in an easy song, remind students where they've come from. The other really unique feature of the series, which I'm going to show you a sample of, is the way I teach effective practice strategies from day one. Every song in the series has a preparatory section that will help to reinforce the concept that's being introduced in the next song. I just want to make sure we are on track with our slides. David, are we looking at a slide with the Jingle Bells layout, and it says layout and format?
It instantly came up when you clicked to the next slide, so it seems like it's working better now.
Okay, great. So I wanted to just show you an example of what the Pronto books look like inside. This is one of the pages from the Prelude Book, which is one of the primer level books. So with each song, on the left-hand side of the page, you will see a new concept being introduced. So in this rhythm is being introduced. And then you'll see down below that there's a little exercise to practice playing eighth notes and counting them out, clapping it. And then down at the bottom of the page, you'll see a before you begin section. And I have this with almost every piece where I ask, the questions that you should. So for instance here, it says find the eighth notes and circle them. So the student will look at the next piece and circle the eighth notes. And then it says write in the beat numbers in the measures with eighth notes. So they can sort of get that functional work in. And then they go ahead and play the song. Let's go ahead and look at another example. David, can we see the light row?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is another example from the Prelude Book. Ties are being introduced. So you'll see on the left-hand side of the page, the upper portion is explaining what ties are. And then here's that effective practice strategy section. It's called Pronto Prep. And it's at the bottom of the page on the left side. And what I've done here is I've taken out the tricky sections of the piece and I've isolated them in this preparatory section. And this is what's really unique about the Piano Pronto series. Students are notorious for not doing section work. As much as we bark at them about you have to do the difficult parts, you have to take it out, you have to practice that separately, we all know that they don't really do it, or they don't really know where to start and where to end. So I've essentially done the legwork for them by extracting these sections and putting them into these Pronto Prep exercise sections before the interview. Again, going back to the flexibility factor with the method, teachers can use this in a variety of ways. Some teachers will introduce these portions first, and that way the student gets through the difficult stuff first, so that then when they look at the piece on the right-hand side, they're kind of like, okay, well, this isn't a big deal. We've already done the hard stuff, so let's go. So again, it really helps with the confidence factor. And then they also know when they go home what they're supposed to focus on. We'll go ahead and move on. Oh, there's my arrow. We'll go ahead and move on. So Dave, move it to sample page now.
Yes, it's there. Perfect.
So I wanted to just show one other sample. This is from the Movement 2 book, which is the third book in the series. I just wanted to show you on a longer piece what these preparatory sections look like. So again, sort of functional theory, you see a review page on the left-hand side where they have to review their terminology that they've learned up to this point. Over on the right-hand side of the page, you see the Pronto Prep section. These are all of the difficult portions of Your Grand Old Flag, which they're about to learn, extracted from the piece and put right there in front of them. So again, as a teacher, you can go through these beforehand. You can assign them as you get to them in the piece. And in longer pieces, this becomes more of a factor. If you have a piece, let's say in the 6th or 7th book that has 4 or 5 pages in it, you can assign the preparatory sections of the sections of the piece that you've actually worked on. You don't have to work on them straight away. And again, at the bottom, you see the before you begin. Just asking practical questions, getting the students thinking, getting them looking at the score. And then there's the music. So once they've gone through all of this preparatory work, again, it kind of takes the sting out of whatever might be difficult in the piece. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. So currently, there are 3 books in the Piano Pronto series that are available in Piano Maestro, which is fantastic. The Prelude, Movement 1, and Movement 2 books are all in Piano Maestro and are all free for you to use within Piano Maestro now and free for all of your students. I currently have audio backing tracks for Prelude and Movement 1, and my Movement 2 backing tracks are being made right now, so they will be in the Piano Maestro app sometime this fall, hopefully very soon. And the play-along tracks are also available on the website, so you can buy those separately. They're super fun. You get practice tempos and performance tempos, and you get 4 tracks with each song, with and without the piano part being played as well. So there's a lot of options for students. So I wanted to talk really quickly about my Keyboard Kickoff book. I just released this book last week, and it has sold like wildfire because I think it's filling a need that teachers really had. My Prelude book, which used to be the very first book in the Piano Pronto series, has sort of an accelerated pacing that I would say works best with kids who are at least in first grade or above. The Keyboard Kickoff book was written to suit the needs of your kindergartners and the kids who need a little bit of a slower start, and even adults or older beginners who could use a little bit of a slower pacing. The main difference is that the Keyboard Kickoff book mainly focuses on playing one note at a time per hand, but it's very similar to the Prelude book in that you are doing on-the-staff reading from day one. It also starts to introduce very early on the concept of being out of a five-finger position and using finger numbers as a guide, not as a crutch, but as a guide to be out of a five-finger position. So I think this is very interesting, fun, and I will have teacher duet parts released sometime in September for this book. And here is a sample page from the Keyboard Kickoff book. So you see very similar layout to the other Pronto books. Pronto prep for all of the songs, just like the other books in the Piano Pronto series. Nice, clean layout. You can use this book with a student of any age. And here's another example page. I focus a lot in the Keyboard Kickoff book on independent left-hand reading as well. This is one thing that the Prelude book doesn't do as much of, and I kind of wanted to fill in that gap. So I am very confident that students who use the Keyboard Kickoff book first and then transition to Prelude, you're going to have really, really solid sight readers. Okay, so if we just go through real quickly how the Piano Pronto series progresses. Like I said, Keyboard Kickoff is generally for any kid who I would say is 10 years or younger. I would zip through that book. The Prelude book is where you start your older beginners, your teens, and your adults because the pacing is more accelerated. And I have recently released teacher duet parts for the Prelude book. There is a duet part for every song in the book, and there's 32 songs. They're very fun. And some of them are quite unexpected, and they really make the material feel very grown up. So I think your students will really enjoy them. So this is one of the documents that we have shared in the notes for the webinar. This is a visual guide for those of you who are like, where do I start with the method books? This is sort of a flow chart of where to start and how the series progresses. So again, on the left-hand side, you'll see Keyboard Kickoff at the top, and we move on to Prelude. Movement 1, Movement 2, Movement 3, Movement 4, etc., and then you move over to the right-hand side. I do have a theory book. The theory book is intended to be used with the Prelude book, Movement 1 and Movement 2. It is sort of a loose design. I designed it that way on purpose because I wanted to make sure that teachers using whatever method book series absolutely can get a lot of use out of this theory book. It is 100 exercises, just reinforcement exercises of the concepts that students are constantly forgetting, rhythmic values, time signatures, things like that. It's a very functional little book. Other resources for teachers. I have a free transfer assessment guidebook. This is a 44-page ebook that you can download for free. I've also posted the link here in the meeting. This is great for when you want to transfer a student into the Piano Pronto series and you're not really sure where they fall in the levels. So this is a sample page from the assessment guide. So on the left-hand side, you will see a music example, and you will have your students play through that. And then on the right-hand side, you see my suggestions. So if the piece was too easy, then you'd proceed to the next piece and have them try it. If it was just right, you'd probably start the student in Keyboard Kickoff. If it was too difficult, definitely use Keyboard Kickoff. And then I also give suggestions for other supplemental books, etc., that should be used for the student once you hit on that sweet spot of where they are in the Piano Pronto series. So again, that's available for free on the website. This is another sample page from the assessment guide. This is a little bit more difficult. So again, you'll see lots of suggestions for both supplemental and method. For the supplemental materials, I've made a supplements roadmap. This is also shared in the meeting documents. I have a spreadsheet page for each book in the Piano Pronto method. So you see over on the far left-hand side, this is the chart for the Movement 2 book. So you'll see in the second column, the supplement books that are suggested for students at this level, the sheet music solos that are suggested, and the duets that are suggested. Everything that you see in blue is hyperlinked. So when you're looking at the chart, if you see something, oh, I'd like to see what that is, you click on it and you'll be taken to that product page straight on the website. Let's talk about the website real quick. I sell direct to customer only at this point. I'm not saying that that won't change in the future, but right now, in order to really keep a high level of quality control, that's the way I do things. So if you want Piano Pronto, you come straight to me. Something that's different. I want your online shopping experience to be completely transparent. I want you to feel absolutely confident that what you're buying is what you're going to get. I have full audio for everything. You can also see all of the insides of the book for everything. So you can stay at home, save gas, and you can sit on your couch, and you can browse the website, you can listen to everything, and you can see everything. I'm really proud to say I've never had a customer return anything in all of my years of selling online. And I really think that that's due to the transparency of the website. Everything's available in hard copy or digital format. I also have a studio licenses on many of the products, meaning that you pay a one-time flat fee and can make unlimited copies of an item, which is a great resource for teachers to help you build your digital library. I have a customer rewards program, which I have posted a link on your resource page that's here in the meeting. Lots of teacher resources and A+ customer service. I am always easy to get a hold of. I also do free personalized autographs. These are my favorite types of orders when teachers order a bunch of sheet music and want all of their titles personally autographed to their students. These make great recital gifts. And I have other music coming into Piano Maestro, hopefully very soon. The Spotlight Solos.
There's a whole bunch of people on it chatting. They're listening to she's chatting.
Okay, so now that I've given you a lot of information, remember, you don't need to see the whole staircase. We're just dipping our toe in the pool. I do have a 20% off sale that is good until September the 1st, which is when I'm leaving for my honeymoon. So if you want to do some quick last-minute shopping, you just use the code SCHOOL20, and this is posted on the website as well. Okay, so I think we are ready for burning questions. I'm going to bomb out of the screen sharing, and hopefully I answered a lot of your questions. There we go. Okay, David, are you still there?
I am still here. Wow, that was fun. I learned a lot. Thanks for sharing, Jennifer.
Great. So
there is some strange. There is some strange bleeding. I'm starting a screen share and I didn't mean to. I've got that. I apologize. I don't know. I clicked the wrong button, but I have some questions that I've been writing down. And if you have questions, go ahead and type them out. And if for some reason your question is missed after a few minutes, feel free to re-type it out. It's possible that they're going to come through the thread so quickly that they might be missed. And this is from Malia, and her question was, do you think every lesson should contain some type of sight reading? What level? I'm trying to understand the question. So do you think every lesson should contain sight reading, and if so, what level should the sight reading be at?
I think sight reading generally should be a level under wherever the student is at. But I would say for beginners that I don't really do any portion of the lesson
Call
straight
it.
sight.
It's just a live call, and all these people are on.
I count whatever repertoire we're moving on to. That's kind of sight reading. So when we move on to a new piece in the method book, I would sort of count that as sight reading. I think it's different once you get up into like intermediate levels. Then I would say, yeah, it's good to have something prepared that's maybe a level under where they happen to be.
Perfect, Jennifer. Thank you. Once again, we're getting some bleeding through phones. If you're listening from a phone, make sure you either mute your phone or you're in a quiet room. This is a system error. It shouldn't have to be that way, but once again, we appreciate it if you'd mute your phone. But thank you. Okay, Jennifer, your next question is about Piano Maestro. How would you incorporate your books and Piano Maestro? How would you use them together? How do you recommend incorporating the game and the practice tool into your lessons?
Okay. Well, what I was doing with my students is I would work through the Piano Pronto material with them during their lesson. And I would typically, because I was only teaching 30-minute lessons, I would typically take the last 5 to 7 minutes of the lesson to go through their assignment pieces from Piano Pronto in the app with them. So maybe the pieces that they had learned the week before, we would go ahead and play through those levels, and I would just check in to make sure that they were playing correctly with the backing track. And then what I would do is whatever was new for the week from the method, I would just ask that they work on that in Piano Maestro. And of course, the kids are so tech savvy. They know how to slow down the tempo. They know how to put the letter names in. They know how to separate the hands in the app. So it's so user-friendly that it really works well in conjunction with the method. It's all about teaching how to practice effectively. It's quality over quantity.
Thank you, Jennifer. When you use Piano Maestro, do you plug it into a speaker, or can you use just the speaker from the iPad?
Typically, I just use the speaker from the iPad. My headphone jack on my iPad is busted, actually, so if I had the capability, I probably would. I have a tiny little cube speaker that probably would have worked really well if my headphone jack wasn't broken.
Perfect. One thing about that is since the iPad has a speaker that goes backwards, and since it's backwards, it reflects off the music stand, so that can be kind of handy. You don't need to have a speaker, but some people like to. Let's see, next question. Go ahead and send in your questions, and I might have missed some of them.
I must have answered everything.
Okay, one right here. Haley from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, asked, how many pieces from and I just lost it, how many pieces from Piano Pronto books do you usually assign to your students each week?
Good question. I always tell teachers, use your instincts. Our gut feelings about things are usually pretty much right on. For the early books, Keyboard Kickoff and Prelude, I would say that your average kid is probably getting between 3 to maybe upwards of 5 songs per week out of each of those books. And if they need to go slower than that, absolutely go slower than that. As they get into the higher levels, movement 1, movement 2, things naturally slow down as they sort of hit those hurdles in the learning process. Then we're probably looking at 1 to 2 songs a week, and then maybe some sort of outside supplement piece.
Thank you. Next question. Are there any plans to offer Keyboard Kickoff with an unlimited license? I know you do that with supplemental material, but I don't think you do with your methods, but I'll let you answer that.
Okay. Here's the deal. I will be discontinuing the studio licenses on the method. I haven't set a date yet, but I'm thinking probably September 30th. Here's why. I had retired from teaching, and I am now a full-time publisher and writer. I love my customers, absolutely, and I know that studio licensing is very convenient. But on the method books, in order for me to stay competitive against the Alfreds and the Fabers of the world, I need to sort of move away from that model for the method only. I have no plans of ever discontinuing it on the supplements. For the supplements, it makes absolute sense that this is a legal way for teachers to build their library and to be able to pick and choose pieces and assign them to the students. But for the method books, I'm really encouraging teachers to just implement the method completely with a student. Stop dabbling and just go for it, because I promise you won't regret it. Now that I've done larger printing runs, I can be much more competitive in this market. I have just dropped all of my prices 20 to 30% on the method books. This is a huge drop, but I'm able to pass along those savings to my customers because I am now able to do larger print runs because sales are strong. So, not going to have the unlimited licensing on the method anymore, but I've got hundreds of other products where you can buy that. And I really want to encourage you, send the parents to the website. It's super easy. They don't have to go anywhere. They can just order from home, and it eliminates any sort of hassle of you having to get reimbursed for shipping. So just send them links of what they need. Say, this is the list of the products that you need from Piano Pronto. You order directly on the website, and then they can choose the shipping speed that they want to pay for, and it's that easy.
Thank you, Jennifer. One of the next questions is that because Piano Maestro has become free, is there any thoughts or considerations of doing another webinar on just Piano Maestro? And Jennifer, I'll answer that. I mean, you can chime in too. There have been webinars about it recently, and they've been recorded. You can go to joytunes.com, and you can access those, more information there. I mentioned this at the very beginning of the meeting. It's very exciting to see JoyTunes collaborating with amazing composers like Jennifer and her fabulous method books, because it shows there's just a little bit more meat to it, more substance to the app now. And so we're very grateful to have Jennifer's music in the app. It's great. I'm very pleased with that. Jennifer, here's another question for you. Besides the classical pieces shown in the method books,
there's a variety of pieces. There's ragtime pieces in there. You've got arrangements of the entertainer.
Hang on, Jennifer. We're getting some chatter. I'm trying to find the source and mute it. I don't know if I'm doing it correctly. On my list of attendees, there's sometimes this little error sign next to your name, and I apologize if I cut you out or send you away from the meeting. I think I may have just fixed it. No, I didn't.
No. Okay.
So anyway, go ahead, Jennifer.
There's ragtime pieces in there, familiar folk tunes. You're rather limited when you're writing a method book series to public domain pieces. Licensing any sort of pop music is extremely time-consuming, expensive, and difficult, and practically impossible. This is a battle I've fought for a long time that many of you are aware of because I've blogged about it. So really, the method book series relies on public domain tools. I promise you, they are arranged in a way that is really fresh and friendly.
You need to make them all in the chat.
And I have, in turn, written a lot of my own compositions that really sort of flesh out the supplemental offerings from Piano Pronto. So you'll have a very wonderful.
Oh, good.
Jennifer, I'm just getting to the next question. Here's one of the questions. Which book introduces chords? Do you introduce chord charts, lead sheets at some point? Is that something you include in your method, or?
But I do have a number of supplemental pieces that are available with chord symbols included. You can when you're choosing the product if you want chord symbols or no chord symbols. But I would say in general that the method itself is actually pretty chord-based without chord symbols. The Prelude book really relies on sort of a visual reading approach in the left hand with a lot of sort of open harmonies and harmonic intervals. That's part of what really motivates the students is that full sound, which I think, of course, is the strategy with most publishers why adult method books are always sort of that chordal approach is because there's a lot of bang for your buck. Like you get a lot of sound out of the piano, and typically they feel that that's more appealing for adults. Well, Piano Pronto really plays off of that trope, but without the three-note chords that are sometimes difficult for younger students.
Good. Thank you, Jennifer. Give me just a second. I had it. Oh, here we go. To what level does the Piano Pronto series go to? Early intermediate, intermediate, late intermediate?
We all think intermediate is something different than, maybe it actually is. Finishes at the late intermediate level. And I encourage teachers to take a look at those later books in the series because they really are great supplemental for late intermediate level.
There's some of these questions that are being answered, so just by other people in the conversation that are familiar with your books and are fans. This question right here is, what do you do with students that play by ear? How do you help them succeed with sight reading when all they want to do is hear you play it and then copy you? How do you handle that?
Yeah. I think that's one of the toughest situations that we face as teachers or are the ear players sometimes. I would say with beginners, it's absolutely essential that you move them through repertoire very quickly and you just put new things in front of them all the time and force them to read in a new way and reading and things out.
I'm interested smart. Can I probably don't like to listen to people
figure things out. Like, the one way I've kind of combated this, or at least tried to get them back into reading, doing transcription work with them using notes.
I listened to it through there, but it wasn't as clear.
What we'll do is we'll pick like a pop song that they like, and we'll just work on transcribing the chorus, maybe 16 bars. And through this work, I've found that students who like to play just by ear will often really improve their reading skills because when you're forcing them to write it down, they start to understand notation better, and it helps to build their confidence level. It also really helps them take ownership of the process when they've created something that they can then play and they have a physical manifestation of that project that they've written down.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm happy to keep having you answer questions, but if you have a commitment, we're a little bit over the hour. There are a lot of people that would like to stay and hear some more questions answered. Some people need to leave, and that's fine if you need to leave. This is being recorded, so you can go back and view these or listen to these questions later and the answers that Jennifer provides. Jennifer, how are you on time?
Oh, I'm fine with time. James, I just saw your comment. Feel free to ask that question in our discussion group on Facebook, and I will absolutely reiterate my answer to that. I know he missed part of that answer because of the person who's on their phone.
And that shouldn't be the person on the phone. It shouldn't be their fault. We might need to change our platform next time we do the webinar. But with that said, we're going to keep on plugging through. So one of the questions was about scales and teaching scales, and sometimes it's teacher preference. When do you introduce scales? How do you introduce them? How do you teach them? What are your recommendations for teaching traditional scales such as major, minor, and the standard keys?
Okay. Well, all of the major scales are introduced in the Piano Pronto series. I start introducing scales about midway through the Movement 1 book, which is the green book, which is the second level. The scale is introduced, and then actually I use the tune Can as implementation of the scale because, of course, it has that descending C major scale in it. For the first few scales that are introduced, there's actually like a small composition using each scale, so they can kind of put it into functional work within a composition. I will say that in the realm of scales and technique, it is one area that I have chosen, and I did this on purpose, sort of stay out of the way of the teacher. I realize that we all approach some of these subjects very differently. We approach scales at a different time point with each student. We introduce technique in different ways, and it's really an area that I kind of wanted to just remain hands-off. And again, keeping the material really flexible so that you can incorporate anything from your arsenal of teaching knowledge, and you can infuse it into the Piano Pronto material. And again, my goal is to just provide you with the music that's going to keep your students sparked and motivated, and let you do your thing as a teacher and let you do what you do best.
Thank you. Jennifer, the next question is, how do you address syncopation, syncopated rhythms, especially in your supplemental music?
Okay, so I am very non-traditional because I had many teachers when I was growing up who either wanted me to tap my foot or count out loud or just do all sorts of things that I couldn't do. I still have a hard time tapping my foot and playing at the same time. It's just a physical limitation of mine. And I know that I'm not the only one, that there are lots of students out there who really struggle with this or who really can't wrap their brains around counting out beat numbers and seeing the proportions between, let's say, eighth notes and quarter notes. Something that I really encourage teachers to do, especially with the supplemental material, is to use lyrics, to use words to teach these rhythms, because it's much easier. And again, it's sort of taking ownership of the process. So if we hit a difficult section in the piece, I'll work with the student to let's make up some words for this so that we can learn the rhythm. And that's always so much more memorable than sitting there and counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which really, is sort of a sterile way of learning the rhythm. And there was something else I was going to say about that. Why don't you continue, and then it's going to come to me.
No, that's just fine. I'm scrolling through here, making sure I may have missed a question.
I know what it was that I was going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
The other thing with my supplemental materials, I'm going to ask teachers to relax a little bit. I like to remind my students that musicians, especially professional musicians, never tend to play something the same way over and over. There is breathing room within my compositions, and I like teachers to strive for 85% correct of what's on the page. That's not saying I'm telling you to ignore mistakes, but I'm telling you to let go a little bit. The rhythms that I write, they're pop rhythms. It's okay for the kids to take a little bit of liberty with what's on the page, and I actually encourage it. I want them to have fun with it. As long as we've got 4 square beats in the measure, I'm cool with it. Okay, so that's another thing about the syncopation.
Thank you, Jennifer. I noticed, Daphne asked that, she says, I notice you don't divide the method books into units. Is there a reason for that?
No, I haven't really thought about it. I don't think there's a reason for that.
What I've noticed is, when you have the series of method books you do, each one is a unit in and of itself. I mean, it's obviously divided into a book for a reason. But good question. Okay, next question.
I think it was just the logical sequence, how I saw things progressing, and every piece sort of has a concept attached to it. So I guess you could just say that each piece is a unit in and of itself.
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. The next question that Hope wanted to know about Piano Maestro. She says, can you put more of the music on for the kids to play before the beats go on, meaning in preview mode? Can there be more sheet music for that? With all of the pop songs that are licensed, Joytunes does not have permission to put those on in the preview. If it's an in-house composition or if it's a folk song, then the preview mode can be put on. But there's a new feature in Piano Maestro that allows you to stop and pause the music and scroll back and forth. And I saw this in the update. I actually haven't seen it yet. It's so new. I haven't seen it myself yet. So that would allow you to stop, pause the music, and work on it before you actually push play and they have to play the background track. As Jennifer's answering the next question, I'm going to look it up and see what happens exactly because I just barely saw this edition. So. This is from Bethany. Jennifer, I noticed you mentioned theory time. This is me noticing that, not Bethany. But she said, what are your favorite things to supplement with besides your own materials?
Oh, I'm going to sound a little snobby, but lately I haven't supplemented with a lot because I am always so busy testing my own materials on my students that kind of swallows up all of the time. But that being said, and I actually, just to stay honest, I just retired from teaching last week. Decided to devote myself full time to writing and publishing. So I will speak of my former days as a teacher. I had plenty of kids who were working through, standard classical repertoire. Many of my teenagers loved the music of David Lawns. David Lawns' music was a huge student saver for me personally when I was a teenager. Thelma, my mentor, that's how she saved me from quitting, because I got to that stage when I was 12 or 13, didn't really want to play anymore, didn't want to practice. She happened to come across his music and threw it up in front of me during our weekly sight reading sessions, and I just fell in love. And that became like my stress relief for me. So as a teacher, I'm always sort of trying to find those types of materials. I do a lot of pop transcriptions. I work with my students on arranging pop music. That's something that's really my niche in the market when I was teaching, was my ability to teach pop music. So aside from teaching my own compositions, we were doing a lot of transcription and composition work with all of my students.
Someone asked, this has come up a few times, how do you get your students the free Piano Maestro for free now? How do you get it for yourself? When you download the app, you'll go to the App Store, download Piano Maestro, and when you log in, it's going to ask you if you're a teacher. There will be a little bit of a process of saying, I'm a teacher, this is how many students I have, I believe. That may have changed since yesterday. But once you log on and you're a teacher, you'll then need to connect to your students by creating a student profile and entering their parents' email in. And this process is maybe a little bit difficult to explain over the phone, but as you explore around, it's easy to figure out. And if you have any problems, go to joytunes.com and go to resources. There I have step-by-step tutorials that I've started for how to use the app and how to get things rolling. And if you have any questions, go to facebook.com/JoyTunesTeachers, or just search in Facebook for JoyTunes Teachers. And you can ask questions there about what the app is, how to get things going, how to find Jennifer's material in it, how do you play her songs in the app, and more things like that. Okay.
James asked a question about the syncopated rhythms. Are they simplified or altered in the Piano Pronto series? I'll say this. The Piano Pronto series, the method books themselves, are much more, shall I say, square when it comes to rhythm. They're much more traditional, the arranging style. Where you'll find the bulk of like my really syncopated, fun pop rhythm stuff, that's going to be in all of the supplemental materials. And that's sort of where my compositional style developed, was writing publishers. I tried to get licenses to arrange and sell pop music, but it was just so difficult. It took me the better part of a year to even get 2 songs licensed, and I tried with multiple others but ran into numerous roadblocks. So I decided to sort of flip the situation on its head, and I thought, okay, well, what is it about this pop music that just engages students so much? And really what it is it's the rhythm and it's the familiar chord progression. So what I decided to do is to kind of beat them at their own game, and I decided I'm going to start writing my own pop music. And here's the advantage to teachers. While a pop song can come into style, it also goes out of style just as quickly. I'll predict right now that in 6 months, no students are going to want to play Let It Go anymore. That's just the nature of pop music. It rises and then it falls very quickly. So the advantage of my pop style music is that I'm not on the radio. I'm just writing timeless tunes that feel familiar and relevant for students, and they're going to remain popular because I'm not subject to radio play.
That was a great answer. Very good answer, Jennifer. And they're fun. They're really fun. It's the familiar sound of the way that the chord progressions move that seem to really captivate students. So, material.
So I often get many of my best ideas when I'm listening to the radio, and I'm like, okay, there's something really cool about that song. What is it that's cool? Okay, now how can I recreate that? The great thing for teachers, too, is that I come at everything from the angle of being a teacher. I know the things that we need to address technically in lessons in order to keep students progressing. So where a lot of teachers can complain that pop music can be sort of vapid and, not musically very deep, I try to always infuse little pedagogical tidbits into my pieces so that students are satisfied because they're just playing fun music that sounds great and feels modern and relevant to them. But teachers are also happy because there is plenty to talk about in these compositions. And again, it's very flexible. So you can talk about as much or as little as you feel is important and relevant to that student's studies.
Thank you, Jennifer. The next question from James is that in the classical pieces like Ode to Joy, are the rhythms squared off or simplified for beginners, intermediate, later on?
Okay, so it depends on the level of the arrangement. Let me talk about arrangements for a minute. I am not an arrangement phobe, and I don't think you should be either. Let's talk about what's fun for students. They love pieces like Pure Relief. Okay, I know we've all heard it 30 million times, and we feel like there are certain tunes that are the reason that kids want to play the piano in the first place. And I am a believer that we should not be denying students access to these tunes just because we feel like the original shouldn't be altered. Now, on that note, I like to think that I am a very thoughtful arranger. If something can't be arranged well or doesn't stay true to the original composition, I don't arrange it. And I try to arrange things in a way that it really does stay true to the original composition. So it's not haphazardly put together. These arrangements are really, really poured over details-wise. Now, as far as altering the rhythm, the Ode to Joy that occurs in the Prelude Book does not have the dotted rhythm at the end of the phrases because the dotted rhythm hasn't been introduced and is introduced, I think, maybe 5 or 6 songs down the road. That being said, they always put in the dotted rhythm because they know that that's what it's supposed to sound like. And again, that's one of those things where I tell teachers, hey, just relax, let it go. That's fine. But for the most part, I don't alter rhythms like that. I try to keep everything as true to the original as I can and level appropriate.
Laura asked if there was, if you're going to start with one supplementary book, which one would you introduce to teachers first? Which one would you say, try this one first, try the supplemental book?
Okay, you have to go with the Spotlight Solos book first. That is an absolute bestseller. It is 10 of my favorite student saver solos in one place. There is a variety of pieces in there. There's pop styles, there's some jazz and blues, and then there's some traditional sort of what I call classical light music. There's a song at the end called The Chase, which is very Bergmuller-esque. The kids just love it because it's super easy to play, pattern-based, but sounds very, very impressive. And like all of my materials, that is a book that will appeal to students of all ages and is not gender-specific in any way, shape, or form. So you can use it with a 7-year-old or you can use it with a 70-year-old. And those songs are graded from sort of mid-movement 1 and upwards. So I'm going to say late beginners and upwards. And I really encourage teachers, as soon as they get that movement 1 book ordered, you need to order the Spotlight Solos. Because, too, you'll often find that when students are really motivated by something, like when they hear a song like End Games in that book, they'll push. So what? Maybe they haven't moved their left hand around a lot yet, but they hear a song like that and they get super motivated, they'll push through it.
That sounds exciting. I think I'm going to go download that one. Is that one, Jennifer, a download or is it a book? Is it in hard copy? It's in both? Okay.
I'm working really hard to get everything available in each format. I'm lagging a little bit in the sheet music department right now just because of storage space. Having just taken delivery of 29,000 books.
I'm on a live webinar about it.
But all of the books at this point are available in hard copy or digital version.
Perfect. Do you ever take requests of classical songs we'd like to see arranged, or?
Absolutely. If I haven't arranged something, please let me know, because I think I've hit most of the good ones. And if it's something I haven't arranged, there might be a reason. But absolutely, I'm always open to requests.
And it looks like, how about arranging more hymn tunes?
Oh, okay. So that is something, part of my expansion model for Piano Pronto is that I am going to start publishing the works of other people. My very good friend, Ben Mason, who is an active church musician, and he is actually the composer who is making my audio files, the backing tracks that you hear in Piano Maestro. He's a really brilliant pianist and composer himself, and so he is actually currently working on a book of hymn arrangements for the early intermediate level students.
Yay! We're excited to hear that, Karen Hunter says. Awesome. Okay. This is good. Very good. Let me see if there's some questions that I copied and pasted from the presentation that we may have missed.
Canada, yes. Oh, Canada is on my list, Andrea. Don't worry. I've got a few things on my to-do list right now, so I'm getting there, slowly but surely.
This could be this is a question about just teaching. In your books, when you're introducing eighth note rhythms, sometimes we'll see that it'll say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for every single quarter note, even if there's only 2 eighth notes in there. In yours, you'll be 1, 2, 3, and 4. And is there any reason to that? Is it preference?
Not in particular. It's probably just my personal preference. But again, if it's something you see in the method books, that's something that I would probably encourage at this point, to do it with words instead. I found that over the years I've transitioned more and more towards long, or like hold, quick, hold, quick, hold, counting rhythms that way instead, with words instead of numbers. I've just found that with my own students that they tend to connect via words much better than via numbers.
I've noticed that as well. For quarter notes, I'm using boom, and eighth notes chicka. So boom, chicka, boom, boom, and really any kind of that really does help. That's kind of fun to see that. So, okay.
Good, I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy. I do it too.
Not completely.
Any more questions? I think that Oh, here's another question. If we order Piano Pronto books this week, will my students get them before your trip?
Any order that comes in before September 1st will go out before I leave. Absolutely. And I'm only gone for a week, but somebody will be fulfilling orders for me while I'm away. So the store is still absolutely open while I'm gone. But yes, if you order something anytime, I think I leave at 1 a.m. on September 1st, I absolutely will be fulfilling orders up until the time I leave for the airport, which is not until like 11 on Sunday night. So yes, I'll get those books out.
Awesome. Now, someone said that Carolyn had a comment or a question about technique. I'm going back to trying to find it, Jennifer. Could you repost that for me, Jennifer? It's from Carolyn, but Jennifer wanted to bring that attention to us.
Did you want me to reiterate my?
James asked about Piano Maestro and if it would be introduced to the Android, if there's a timeline. Oh no, that was someone else asked that. It will eventually come to Android, but there is not a timeline on it. It's in the pipeline. But there are features that teachers are requesting that are current users on the iPad that they're putting that as a first priority because they're already using it. But they'd really like to release it to Android users as well.
Fine, I graded you now.
You got them all right. I think there's one little typo, maybe.
So someone else is still in the conversation with us. If you're talking about typos,
Yeah.
we can hear you, and that's okay. But it will be available on Android devices, Piano Maestro. That is, computers. I don't think that's in the plans. I did have a conversation with Yuval, the CEO, once, and he talked about envisioning having a computer-based place to go to study music and theory, maybe not the same way as Piano Maestro, but with other applications, other uses of it to get more people involved. But what I've noticed is that there's a lot more drive towards using the iPad or a tablet, but particularly the iPad, because it can sit right on the piano. Though it is an additional expense for the teacher, it's proved to be an effective way to introduce technology to a student.
I see, okay, Bethany has asked this question twice, so I want to address it now. She's asking me why the left hand is introduced pretty late in the keyboard kickoff book. I believe it's just a little bit more than halfway through the book that I popped the left hand in there. The goal with keyboard kickoff was really to offer a slower pace with lots and lots and lots of songs. My idea is that the kickoff book is the only book that you need to use, that you don't need to look for outside supplementation to beef it up, because that usually seems to be an issue, that the pacing is too quickly or is moving too quickly, and then there's not enough time to practice the concept. So really my idea with the kickoff book was to really slow down the pace and to give the students lots of songs and lots of offhand. And before the left hand is introduced, they are already exploring the use of, using fingering and note reading in tandem to move around the keyboard, which I think is something that's really important to introduce early on. So I didn't want to confuse the issue by also getting the left hand involved too early. Okay, good. It was a good answer.
That was a good answer. Good. Sorry about the delay. I feel like I keep saying the same thing. Thanks, Jennifer. That's a great answer. I'm trying to do. Men and how we are so great at multitasking that we can read questions and listen at the same time. I'm trying to pick up that talent still. So, someone asked if I'm David Love from Love Family Piano. That's the name of our studio. Yep, but someone was just curious about that. Anyway, do you need technique books with Piano Pronto?
As I said earlier, this is a realm where I stay out of your way as a teacher. Piano Pronto is all about the music. It's all about the music and sprinkling in the functional theory that you need. I realize that all of us teachers spend a different amount of proportional time talking about technique, working through technique, and we all have our different ways of doing it. We all have our different materials that we enjoy. So it is just a realm I decided to stay very hands-off. So you can, of course, bring in dozen a day, or if you like Hanon, or if you like Cherney, whatever you like to do, absolutely augment the material with that. But Piano Pronto is really based around the music itself. And of course, the technical skills, the way I was taught is that we address technique as it came up in repertoire. And that's really the way that I was trained all the way through. It wasn't to say that I didn't have a technical regime on the side. Sure, I did. I was assigned scales and chords and arpeggios and whatnot. But really, I always found that, addressing technique as it comes up in repertoire is really the most effective way of dealing with it.
I agree with that, Jennifer. I've noticed that giving a technique book exercise on phrasing is not as effective as teaching phrasing in an actual piece.
Well, I'm a big fan of situational experience. Let's take the situation that's happening in this piece and let's extract the technical idea and talk about it. Because really that's what we want to do as teachers, is we want to make functional musicians, not just musicians who can play scales fast or play arpeggios fast, situations that arise in pieces.
Perfect. Jennifer, where can they go to ask more questions about Piano Pronto?
I would love it for people to join. We're about 1,000 members strong right now. And you will find us on Facebook. You can just search for Piano Pronto Publishing and see what you're posting, and they can't read the responses. So it's a safe environment to talk openly about things. Once again, that's Piano Pronto Publishing. You just search for that when you go onto Facebook, and you request to be approved as a member, and that usually happens pretty quickly. I just check it to make sure, you look like a piano teacher. And then the gloves are off. You can ask whatever you like, and I'm usually pretty responsive, especially now that this is my full-time gig. I am at your full-time disposal, except when I'm on my honeymoon next week. Then you can't bother me.
Jennifer, thank you so much for presenting to us today. Have a lovely afternoon and rest of your morning. Grateful to have you on. I'm going to end the meeting, and I will, when I end that meeting, it'll automatically connect you to Jennifer's web page. So thanks for. What was that, Jennifer?
Convenient.
I'm sorry?
I said that's very convenient. That's how get bombed right on the.
Oh, yep. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day. Thank you.